Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today, we're looking at the Type 9 shuttle as we continue through our shuttles that we have here from D6 Holocron. All right, so let's get down to our write up. And as you can see, most of this is the speculation from Daystrom Institute. Relatively few shuttle or Starfleet shuttlecraft are capable of undertaking true interstellar journeys. And uh, those tend to be larger classes. Although Starfleet has occasionally requested the resources to correct this situation, such projects have never been a high priority and have tended to be canceled in the earlier stages. It was 2368 before Starfleet finally decided to really push the new design to correct this deficiency. In this year, a request was made for a new type of shuttle capable of carrying 1 to 2 people across distances of several light years in relative comfort, or to carry up to 4 persons for short duration missions. The speed requested was much higher than most previous vessels, in line with the general trend towards much faster vessels, um, which has been a recent feature in all Starfleet designs after recent advances in warp propulsion technology. This design process was implemented in the late 2368 and was almost completed by early next year when Starfleet halted the program and released uh, its requirement. It was decided that several new features should be included in the craft. These included an increase from one to two micro torpedo launchers, a more capable onboard computer system, and beefing up the armament by the addition of two phaser arrays to a simple emitter, which had been the only beam weapon. In addition, Starfleet asked the designers to simplify and modularize the design in order to allow semi industrial replicators to produce whole sections and full industrial replicators to produce almost complete shuttles in one pass. The Federation has still not perfected replication technology to the point where warp coils can be produced, but the new design included a modification of the nacelles to allow very rapid installation or swapping of the coils. Production facilities would now be able to produce a basic Type 9 shell virtually at the press of a button and install a full set of warp coils within less than an hour. Smaller replicator units, such as the semi industrial models carried by many Federation starships, could produce a Type 9 shell in 12 bolt together sections, which could then be assembled and fitted with coils in under 12 hours. This gives the Starfleet an extremely broad range of options in producing the Type 9. Even small starships such as the Sabre class can easily produce 6 or 8 of these handy little shuttle craft at once from their standard replicator stocks. Removing the coils and converting the shells back to their raw materials when they are no longer needed, this virtually removes the need to maintain a large fleet of Type 9s, which frees up valuable hangar bay space within starships and even more valuable production capacity within Federation shipyards. The first ships to try this new construction philosophy under the normal field conditions were the Intrepid class. The USS Intrepid replicated 3 Type 9 shuttles during her maiden voyage in 2370 and reported complete success with all three. When news of the predicament of the intrepid USS Voyager reached Starfleet in 2373, it was learned that the ship had lost several shuttles during their attempt to reach home and had to rely heavily on their ability to replicate new craft. Starfleet has viewed this as a triumphant vindication of the Type 9 concept and has announced that this feature will be a basic requirement for all future small craft designs. Although Starfleet headquarters has, naturally, not said as much, it is likely that the recent proliferation, proliferation, oh my goodness, if I can only speak this morning, of fighter level craft during the Dominion War is due to a large part of this new philosophy. It seems likely that new or modified fighter designs will have been circulated, which are suitable for shipboard replication, allowing the use of starships as mobile construction facilities. If true, that would increase the Federation production of fighters by at least tenfold at uh, at a stroke. So, um, the ability to do this really does turn production on its ear, and this is something that was brought up in Voyager, which I admit, and I've said this before, I've not watched a lot of the Voyager series, so having something like this added on is a nice kind of change for the Federation. So, going from Daystrom here, what we have for stats out of their setup. So, um, the Type 9 Shuttlecraft, which would be a starfighter scale. Now they have it listed as a shuttlecraft. There is the Cochrane, which was destroyed, the Dawkins, which is active, and then there's an estimated amount of 13,598 others, with about 4,815 being lost in all. Now, I will say that if we're able to construct vessels on a whim, those numbers might be a little off, but you know we'll go with it because this is what they get from some backstage knowledge and so forth. So we do have a length of 9.17 meters, a beam of 3.8 meters, a height of 2.95 meters. Of course, it's only going to be one deck tall. We have a mass of 1.58 metric tons, has a crew of one plus two passengers. So the one being a yellow, I believe, is backstage. No, that's cannon source. Um, the light green here is backstage source. So as far as the length and the height. All right, so we have an armament which is standard of two type 4 phaser banks, one type 4 an additional one Type 4 phaser bank, and two micro photon torpedo tubes with 60 rounds. Uh, we have a standard shield system with a total capacity of 13,500 terajoules, a light duranium titanium single hull, a low level structural integrity field. Warp speed, our standard cruise is going to be a 3, a max warp is 3.4, and max rated is a warp 4 for about 3 hours, which is very significant for a small shuttle like this in comparison to a lot of the other shuttles that we have seen in the past. Our strength uh, for our shuttle here is a beam firepower of 4, torpedo firepower of 20, a weapon range and accuracy is a 15, shield strength is a 5, and hull armor is a 3.13. It also has a speed of 53 and combat maneuverability of 23,350. The overall strength index that they give it is a 41, and a diplomatic capacity is 2. So even though you could have one pilot and two passengers, it is relatively comfortable enough to say that you could possibly have two diplomats on board. Our expected hull life is going to be about 50 years. We have a refit cycle of minor and standard refits being done every year, and a major refit being done every 15 years. But if what they're saying is true, that we could replicate this and then we could de-replicate it at will, I don't know if we're really going to be doing a lot of upgrading and refitting of these shuttles. I think we would just de-replicate them and then replicate a new shuttle whenever we need it. So it opens up a huge platform of possibilities. All right, let's see what we have in our D6 system. So, going for our Type 9 shuttlecraft, it is Starfighter scale. Again, we have the length of 8.45 meters long, where Daystrom had 7.14, I believe it was. We do have a beam of 4.2, so this is slightly or wider in our D6 holocron, and 2.7 meters, so it is zero point 0.2 meters shorter, I believe, than what D6 holocron had listed. Now, ship mass is 4.25 tons being listed instead of the, what was it, 1.3 or so metric tons. So this is a little bit beefier than what we have listed on Daystrom's website. This is a Starship Size 2. Let's see, we have an autopilot of 1D plus 2, so it is a little bit below our galactic standard for doing an autopilot. Has a crew of 2, but a skeleton crew of 1 can manage the shuttle with a plus 5 bonus to our operations. We have listed as 6 passengers being available on the shuttle, which is much different from what we have on Daystrom because they only have a shuttle capacity of one crewman plus 2 passengers. So this does make this a little bit bigger. Um, if at all possible, this could be, say, a Mark II of this, an upgraded version of the Type 9 shuttle. If you want to look at it in that regard, if you would prefer more of what Daystrom has. Let's see, we do have cargo capacity as none, although I would say that much like the other shuttles that we have done, if you're running without any passengers or whatever, I think you could probably fit about 1 ton's worth of cargo on the shuttle. Consumables, we have enough consumables for about a week. Our warp drive is being listed as much slower here than what we have listed on Daystrom. So our standard is a 1.2, a maximum warp is 2, and max rated is a 2 for 48 hours, which doesn't seem quite right for them both to be the same. In that regard, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to upgrade that to a 3, which would make a little bit more sense to have a warp 3 for 48 hours instead of warp 2, and saying that we can do warp 2 anyways. We do have an upgraded version of this, which, might be our longer length and our heavier uh, ship mass here. Our upgraded has a standard warp speed of 1.2. Our maximum is at warp 2, and our max rated is warp 4 for 48 hours. Now we do have a nav computer, which is a standard on pretty much all Star Trek vessels. Maneuverability is going to be a 2D. We have a space speed of 5 and atmospheric speed of 850 kilometers an hour. This does have a hull strength of 2D plus 1, with a shield strength of 1D, which is not bad for a prefabricated ship. Okay, so sensors. We have passive sensors going out to 3 kilometers with a plus 1 bonus, an active scan going out to 8 kilometers with a plus 2 bonus, an active search going out to 12 kilometers with a 1D plus 1 bonus, and a focus out to 500 meters at a 1D plus 2 bonus. Our weapons being listed here are 2 Type 5 phaser arrays on the Type 9A version only, so this would be our upgraded version. Otherwise, I think it would be a Type 4. Let's see. And it's listed as 1 forward and 1 aft. Fire control is a 0D. Damage is 5D. Now, we also have 2 class Alpha tractor beams, 1 forward, 1 aft. Again, a fire control of 0D and a strength of 3D. We have 1 transporter with a range going out to 30,000 kilometers, and it's a 2-person capacity. Now, the write-up that we have here, the Type 9 shuttlecraft has been introduced. First alert, weather as my phone wants to tell us that I have a weather update. Uh, into service in 2371. It later became the standard shuttlecraft design incorporated into many Starfleet classes, including the Intrepid class and the Sovereign class. And this comes to us from episodes Threshold and the Dominion War novels, Behind Enemy Lines, Tunneling Through the Stars. Now, of course, D6 Holocron does get all of their source material from Memory Alpha, Memory Beta, and some of it's coming from Ship Recognition Manual, Volume 1, Space Dock pages 48, 148 to 150. Um, so if we were going to try and get this to where we have Daystrom's kind of reading, we do need to add in um, our micro torpedo launchers, um, which is not that hard to do. I think that we could probably, I think our Peregrine has micro torpedoes. No, I think it's listed as regular photon torpedo launchers. Um, then we just kind of look at our other ones and see what we have. Um, I think these are just being listed as regular photon torpedo launchers. Let's see. Yep, that's all we're listed as the regular photon torpedo launchers. So, um, to add this in here, because it's listed, I think what we're going to do is we're just going to take all this. We will shift this down here. Uh, Trying to count here so I know about how far down to move this. And I'm going a little farther than what I think I should. Um, and then we're just going to grab from the Peregrine, we're just going to grab the regular photon torpedoes and just kind of copy it and paste it and move it on over because that gives us that ability. And I think the other thing I'm planning on doing is we will change in ours exactly how fast it is going to be that of what we have from Daystrom. I think that that's kind of an important thing here. So let's see if we can find. We have um, defense system. All right, 3.4, and 4. Okay. So let's just try and work this out. Um, Oops. 3.4. Oops. A 3, 3.4, and 4. Now, for our standard, I think if we went to a warp 2 to a warp 3 and a warp 3.5, that gives us a better sense in the original. And then in our upgraded version here, uh, we are now doing a little bit better. We've fixed the warp coil issues. Kind of going from there. So this is the stats that we currently have. If you grab this off of D6 Holocron, I would say probably make these changes for running it around. And of course, you see that what I would probably have it for running Star Wars. Honestly, looking at it, um, I'd probably put it at a primary of 1 because I just like to keep everything roughly on par with each other. Um, Now, the other thing is depending on when we're doing this and so on and so forth, uh, replicator technology is not going to be something that we're going to use in the Star Wars universe. Um, the tricky thing about how that kind of works. Actually, I suppose I'm kind of wrong here. Now, I know that the wonderful use of technology is we have actually used um, a transporter, and we were actually able to transport one atom to another place. The only problem is, and the scary thought about how this all works, is we can copy that atom and we can put it into a different place, but that original atom is still there. We have to destroy the original material. Um, that's where science and science fiction kind of ends, because unfortunately we've made a duplicate copy, but that original is still there. And as far as doing humans, where our atoms are constantly changing and moving, that gets to be a little bit more complicated and a little messier. Not saying it is not going to be possible in the future. That would be wonderful. But the bad side is we can make a copy, but then you have to actually physically destroy the original in the process. So that's the scary thought. And I do know that that was kind of brought up um, in the original movie, in the original Star Trek movie, where Bones just did not like jumping onto a transporter, and says, how would you like to have your atoms spread across the galaxy? And that's kind of what he's talking about. So, keeping that all in mind and just having a little bit of fun with it all, um, the seriousness of how things truly work is kind of scary, but it is just the truth of the universe. So, and we just kind of go from there. With that, thank you so very much for stopping by. It's wonderful having you here. Hope you're doing well, and I will see you in the next video.